middle school, I was a complete disaster. Everything I did was a call for attention. I just want you to picture this. A kid with a bad attitude, lack of interest, and always on the look for trouble. I can't even believe it, but this was me. The situation got so bad that I was on the verge of being expelled. But I only had 1 month to prove myself, and so I did. For 29 days that was. The last day of school came and 3 of my best friends had brought an e-cigarette to school. They told me to go with them to the bathroom so that we could use it. To be honest, I did not want to go. However, in my head, if I did not go, I would be seen as a loser. So, as you might imagine, I went along. 3 hours later, we got called into the principal's office and they had substantial proof that this had happened. My 3 friends just got some community service. Easy, right? But my punishment was much more severe. I was being expelled. And I really took this opportunity to change the environment I was in, and I changed schools and got my act together. What I want to tell you is that there is always a place and time in your life for everything. And you don't need to look for approval from your peers. You don't need to follow the crowd. You should just look for what is right for you and what is going to make you thrive. Stop believing that you need to be like others to belong. Just listen to these 2 words. Be yourself.
Did you know that 1 out of every 2 or 3 people is actually considered to be an introvert? Introversion is about how we respond to stimulation, and that includes social stimulation. As philosopher Carl Jung said, there is no such thing as a person who is a pure introvert or a pure extrovert, and if such a person did exist, they would be in a lunatic asylum. But if you fall somewhere between the scale of introvert and extrovert, then you are considered to be an ambivert. When we were little, people encouraged us to be extroverted because they believed that it would make us more productive in society. But research shows that the professional leaders who yield better results are actually the introverted leaders because they allow their employees to run with their ideas instead of completely taking over. Whereas extroverts tend to get really excited about their own ideas that they almost kind of refuse to listen to others. But the good thing about extroverts is that people come to them because of their personality. They are more willing to open up because extroverts are more approachable. People are encouraging us to be more extroverted, but this shouldn't be the case because they should be encouraging us to be both. Because with both, we can easily collaborate with others when needed, but then we can also thrive when we work by ourselves.
Knowing exactly what your weaknesses and strengths are will help you in life many more than what you think. But why? Why is this? Because asking yourself, many of us do not know how to answer this, right? Because we're not gonna criticize ourselves in that hard way, saying, oh, I don't know how to think fast. I don't know how to make money. I don't know how to be creativity. It's hard, but how can we know, or how can we get to know which are our weaknesses and strengths? Well, nowadays it's a kind of easy because there are many tests and you can go to places and they will kind of help you and tell you. But I think personally and scientific ways say that asking someone that trusts you a lot and knows you from many years will help you a lot, since they will tell you the truth and you know that your friendship with them is not because of material or because you need something about them, you know what I'm trying to say? So asking them, and telling them to tell you the truth, you will know what your weaknesses and strengths are, because he's gonna tell you the truth and he's gonna tell you, okay, you don't know how to do this and this and this, so I think that's not your strengths, but you really know how to be creative, you really know how to guide people in life. But that's not the situation, since sometimes knowing the right situation or weaknesses become our strengths. Let me tell you a story now. You know that the world record holder right now in archery the longest shot and the best precision ever made in an archery, you won't believe me. This person has no hands at all. None. Not just the hands, the whole
The
arm.
bandwagon effect can be defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary as the phenomenon by which the growing success of something attracts more and more widespread support or adoption as more people perceive and are influenced by its increasing popularity. We can observe that this phenomenon comes from many things, like the desire to be right or to be included in the group, as well as wanting to conform with a group. This is a reenactment of a study conducted by two French psychologists, Moscovici and Zavaloni.
What do you think of French politics?
I'm not very interested in politics. I'm not a specialist on the subject.
And you, what do you think of the French president?
I'd say I like the French president, but there's clearly room for some improvements.
Thank you. What do you think of the French president?
I like him.
I mean, he's not amazing.
No, but like, he's doing a good job overall, you know? He's accomplished quite a fair amount of things.
Yeah, it's true actually. When you think about it, yeah, he's done.
You know, like, there's a lot of
Alright,
things
things.
he's done wrong, but
Yeah.
you could say he's a good president.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Fact.
What do you think of the American president?
I think Mr. Trump is not fit to have the power over such an important country in the world, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Trump.
Thank you. What do you think of the American president?
Amazing guy. He has done so much for the US. He makes America great again.
What do you think of the American president?
I think Mr. Trump is unfit to be in power,
I think he's a pretty good businessman.
but he's sexist and racist.
Yeah, but he's a pretty good businessman.
But he's sexist and racist. And
I guess a president shouldn't be sexist and racist.
exactly, he's at the head of one of the most powerful countries around the world. How can he do that? Even some of his laws that
That's
he's
true.
implemented.
I hadn't seen it that way before. Yeah. You know what? Actually, you're right. Yeah. He's a shit president.
Robert Cialdini, a psychology and marketing professor, notes that consumers often use a simple heuristic: popular is good. He explains that following the crowd allows us to function in a complicated environment which we live in, since many of us don't have the time to properly observe and learn about certain things like a product that has been advertised. Instead, we rely on signals like popularity. If everyone else is buying something, the reasoning goes there's a good chance the item is worth our attention.
Do you feel like our attention increases when we have the presence of others near us? Do you believe we act the same when someone is watching? One of the first interested researchers, Norman Triplett, actually conducted an experiment to see how people would react to this. After countless attempts with students, athletes, and even cyclists, they came to the conclusion that it can. You see, there are two words: social facilitation and social inhibition. Social facilitation consists of how the presence of others helps us improve and perform better. This usually happens when the task is easy for the person doing it, allowing him or her to do the task without any complications and with confidence that will allow it to strive. Social inhibition, on the other hand, is when the person is not familiar with the task. Involvement of peers or spectators in this case can negatively affect the performance of the task. Big time. I mean, besides the task provided, the amount of people watching you does matter. Don't get things confused. When experimenting with the soccer team, playing for thousands of people, it seemed that neither social inhibition nor social facilitation came into play. You see, it's simple. When there's a large audience, we lose control over the spectators and therefore stop being sensitive to their influence. In fact, myself, as an all-time high school student, have dealt with a big hand of peer pressure. I bet we can all agree that there was one moment we did really good on a project. Next to you was your peers grateful to have you in their team. Social facilitation was playing in our favor. We were friends. But what happens when we do bad and keep distracting ourselves? Simply because we do not understand the task given. Social inhibition took over, we lost control, and made what came out to be garbage. You see, regardless of whether you're judging our work or simply are mere spectators, the type of task changes how we respond to their presence. You can either benefit from someone watching you do your best, or you can choose to work alone to focus on getting better at something. In other words, make the best out of your peer pressure environment, because you don't know how much it can really benefit you in the long run and change your life for the better.
Okay, and so there once was this 17, 16-year-old kid, something like that, and he was going to his first party. So he was very nervous. He was asking all his friends how he needed to behave and everything. He was very, very nervous. And I mean, you could imagine being nervous, right? I mean, we all went to our first party at some time, and I imagine most of us were a bit nervous. And so this kid, when the party was ending, he hadn't realized that a problem would be how to get home. And so one of his friends told him that he could drive him. And his other friends also told him that he should go with them because the driver wasn't drunk and he knew how to drive perfectly and everything. And so he did. He went with them. But as it turns out, the driver was completely drunk and he didn't know how to drive. And he had stolen his parents' car. And in the end, they crashed into a tree. And in hindsight, that was probably one of the best things that could happen. And that kid wasn't fake, actually. That kid was me. And this happened to me when I was 16 years old. And it taught me a very important lesson that I carry with me till this day. And I learned it very, very early on, but it was a very valuable lesson to learn. And that is that we only have one life. And we can only be ourselves one time, and we can only be one person. And that is each of us. And so what I want to tell you is we can't waste it pretending to be somebody else or being somebody else so that other people will like us or doing things so that other people will like us. We need to be ourselves, and you need to be yourself 100% of the time. You need to adapt to different situations and overcome them, knowing your strengths and weaknesses. But you should always be yourself because life is short and you can only be yourself once. So why waste it? Be yourself. Thank you very much.